Trails Collective world, Ian here for the Trails Collective live episode. This is going to be airing or is airing March 22nd, 2023. I'm excited to connect with you guys. Hopefully spring is breaking in your, wherever this finds you at the moment as well. We've had a couple beautiful days here in Ithaca. Got in a really beautiful workout yesterday outside off the track, I think, for the first time in a while. Some mile repeats. It was pretty awesome to feel the warmth. Outdoor track is starting. I think we had our women on the track for the first time yesterday afternoon outdoor. So it's beautiful. So hopefully it's nice whether you are in a lowland area or in the mountains. I'm stoked for spring to be here. And I am excited for another round of Trails Collective Live. Get to bring in some friends for this round that I too often only get to see at events or in passing, which isn't nearly enough time to connect with people. So I'm thankful for these opportunities. So for the last, I think it was maybe 2 of the last 3, I've started focusing on regions, which has been kind of fun. It wasn't really a plan, but I think I'm going to kind of stick with this for a little bit just because it's kind of fun. So this round, we are going to be focused on the Adirondacks, something that is not too far from me. And it's been fun to have the opportunity to spend up there in the context of putting on the Whiteface Sky and Mountain races over the past number of years and get to know some of the individuals up there. And just a really beautiful area. So I'm excited to dig into some of the details, hopefully some of the stories, some of the individuals, have them convey some of their favorites and adventures that hopefully that you can, I don't know, maybe look into for yourself. For all those who are tuning in live, thank you. It is always appreciated for the energy, questions, comments. Feel free to drop them into the thread. Some of the questions for tonight will come from ideas passed on from a coach, Sayard Tanis, a friend from down in Pennsylvania. She tuned into a couple of the episodes, and she was able to get a few back over to me. And for those who are tuning in live, if you are dropping questions, I think they'll get through to the Trails Collective's YouTube channel. If you drop the comments or questions in there, they might come through on Facebook too, but YouTube may be a little bit better. This episode will live on YouTube afterward, and I'll also get it uploaded to Anchor FM, which I think has been maybe acquired by Spotify, but puts out podcasts wherever podcasts live. I just uploaded, I think, the last 4 this afternoon. So they are out there. And so you can listen to them in just audio form as well. Really, the intention of the Trails Collective has been to celebrate trail running and community. I've been very thankful and grateful for the community throughout my life, particularly in these past 20 years. I think it's really an amazing community. I think particularly here in the Northeast, too often, maybe some of the events and the voices and the communities haven't necessarily gotten the time in the spotlight, whether it be media or discussion or event sponsorship or whatever that maybe other areas of the country have gotten. And so I tried to create a platform that would really celebrate, particularly focus on the Northeast trail running world, whether it be athletes, whether it be events, whether it be shops, whether it be trail maintainers, nonprofits. It's my hope to bring those voices to you all. And for those who support the Trails Collective, whether it be through just watching it or listening or sharing it in your own social media circles, or whether you come on as a Patreon supporter for whatever, whether you send me a message on things that you'd like to hear or people you'd like us to reach out to, any of that just makes it the community that it is. So, all right. As I mentioned to some of them before I hopped on or went live with the episode here, it's always my intent to try to dig a little bit into results from this past weekend, some of FKTs that happened, events that are about to open. But life just keeps staying busy between coaching and kids and a busy shop into the spring, at least here this evening. I didn't get a chance to look into that this week, but I will still try when I am able. So that allows us to just really focus on the Adirondacks. And so I am going to weave in our guests here. Michael Brockway. We've got Jay Whitbourne, Sarah Keyes, and Laura Tuttle. Thanks for all being on. All right. So I will, for those who don't maybe already know this crew or everybody in this crew, I'll do a brief intro to each of them. And then hopefully we can just kind of dig in. Maybe I'll have some questions for individuals. We'll have some general questions that you can all weigh into. And my hope is for just kind of a fun discussion. Hopefully some stories can maybe come out here and there. Feel free to dig in with one another as opposed to me just doing a line of questioning here. Abby, thanks for being on there. And again, I will try to weave in some comments as they come in. So thanks for being on there and supporting Laura being on here. All right, so let's go, Sarah. With roots in Paul Smith's and home in Saranac, Sarah is actually, hang on 1 second. I'm going to switch my notes here so I could tell you any number if Sarah is, or maybe we'll just pause there for the, that's kind of where the episode ends. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Yeah, that's good. All right, hang on, bear with me, because this will come up a little bit later, and I might as well just fix it now. All right, almost there. If the windows would actually change correctly here. I know it's exciting already, isn't it? You're just wondering what Sarah is.
I'm wondering. Right. I'm definitely
I know.
Wondering.
She is, yeah. now with all that, now with
a lot of buildup.
It is a lot of buildup there. What I was going to say, it was going to sound now with all that buildup, it's just kind of ridiculous. I should probably not. All right, look, I was typing up notes kind of, last minute here in the intro. I put Sarah's Adirondacks to the core. Now that I'm saying it, I'm like, that's ridiculous. You are, but like, who says that? I just said it. All right. But,
that's all right.
But yeah, you are.
I'm here for it. It's great.
You are here for it. All right. She's a nurse, a coach with Eastern Mountain Endurance, specializing in women's specific training. Works part-time at the Fallen Arch, co-RD of the Whiteface Mountain Races, and is an athlete with the North Face. Quite a lot of hats there. And yeah, that's a lot of hats. She's a mountain endurance athlete with a more recent third at the Rut 50K in 2022, 12th place Western States in 2021, preceded by a third place Golden Ticket run at Black Canyon. That's in addition to more regional awesome finishes as well. The one time where you did pretty well at Breakneck and I just kind of almost left you off the awards altogether. I think maybe you took the win and we just thought we'd just go with second and third on that day.
Yep.
Yeah. So some local runs as well. So not just confined to races, she's notched solid FKTs, including Lawn Mountain efforts, and in the mix, second fastest women's time for the Adirondack 46 with a recent FKT attempt. Well, relatively recent, despite the COVID blur here. So Sarah, good to have you on.
Yeah, it's like to be here.
Laura is a native of Anchorage, Alaska. And where are you at the moment, Laura? Where's home?
Queensbury, New York.
Queensbury, New York.
Yeah.
All right. So still in the relative house here with the Adirondacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mountain athlete and physical therapist. And what's the focus for physical therapy?
Outpatient orthopedics mainly.
Right on. So you should be pretty good at fixing Sarah next time she breaks her ankle if she kind of needs somebody on the local. She has a couple of Whiteface Mountain races finished under her belt. I think you've been skiing, right? Are you a skier in the winter?
Yeah, I've been mainly doing skimo racing this winter, so
nice.
Definitely less running.
Yep. Yeah, and a couple of our guests in the Whites were also coming off of some ski stuff. And I think I was really hoping to have Ryan Welts on the Whites last week, and we talked a little bit about the Inferno race, which I think just also happened last week, which has always been on my radar. That looks pretty sweet. But yeah, all right. So in addition to some Alaska Beasts, I think you were in Mountain Marathon, right? Has that been one that's in?
Yeah, I've done it 5 times.
5 times.
So far.
Yeah, that's good. And some other high-profile races in terms of Broken Arrow and Run the Rut. You've had a number of FKTs, including the Lake Placid Niner Challenge, Bob Marshall Traverse, as well as several of the Peak and Traverse shots. So you've made good use of your time in the Adirondacks so far.
Yeah, it's great.
Right on. All right. Jay Whitbourne, roots in Rochester, but with years of seemingly spending most waking and non-waking hours spent in the Adirondacks, at least as far as I can tell from social media and from that stalking. He recently made the move to the Saranac area In addition to formal event finishes and Adirondack classics such as Wakely Dam, Great Adirondack Trail Run, and Whiteface, he's also gone after classic Adirondack routes and FKTs such as the Bob Marshall Traverse. More fitting for this round, Jay is hoping to finish his first Adirondack 46 grid next month. And for those of you not knowing on the grid meaning he'll have hiked all 46 peaks in each month of the year. That's a lot of Adirondack time.
It is.
It is. Well done there, sir. And Michael, I believe, so your roots are in Washingtonville. Are you still at Plattsburgh?
Yeah, I'm a junior here currently.
Junior at Plattsburgh. He's run Cayuga and Whiteface. He and a fine crew of young steeds continuously remind me of the Hanson brothers from Slapshot, which really just makes me happy every time I see. Yeah, I enjoy that. And they're currently seeking big ticket sponsors for their semi-pro mountain adventure team, the Adirondack Crawlers. Once this episode reaches at least like 30 people, I figure it'll make the waves that you need to probably secure that sponsorship.
Yeah, if it's the right 30 people, I mean, definitely.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right. So it is good to have you all. Let's talk about, I'm just going to get to know you all a bit in terms of roots. So Sarah and Laura, you guys both from, for sure, mountain regions directly. Sarah, with your roots right there in Saranac, I think before you came into running, you did a stint with, what was the kind of the trail work crew, or it was like
well, I used to work in environmental ed, so I was working like the Wild Center in Tupper Lake and the Vic and Paul Smiths, and I would do a lot of like outdoor education for school programs or public programming, and spent a lot of time outside. But before that, like way back after high school, I did an AmeriCorps program where I did do some trail building and stuff, but not in the Adirondacks. That was in California. That region. So,
and I think it was AmeriCorps that I was remembering when I was trying to do this deep stalk of old like Instagram photos, and I think at some point you posted your AmeriCorps crew or whatever.
Oh yeah, I actually was looking for that photo recently. I couldn't find it either, but in our like
I did find it.
Okay, great.
I'll send it to you later if you need it. Yeah.
The steel toe boots and the like khaki cotton shirts, and the federal issued very professional trail attire.
Yep. So with those routes, you've traveled quite a bit in the Toyota, going after trail running and mountain destinations. I think several times, maybe figuring out where you were going to end up in life, whether the immediate moment or longer term. And as far away as like Bhutan with the snowman race, which you were able to talk with us about this past year. But you keep coming back to Adirondacks. I mean, Adirondacks is truly your spirit. So that's maybe a tough thing to maybe contextualize, but what keeps you coming back to the Adirondacks? Why the Adirondacks?
Yeah. This is kind of the storyline I tell people, right? I went out to California right after high school, drove cross country thinking I'd find a place that was like, oh, this is where you should live and move to. And nowhere has ever spoken to me like the Adirondacks does. I think there's a lot of similarities between mountain towns. You can certainly go to a lot of mountain towns and feel like, a similar vibe that's, people like being there, not necessarily for the jobs, but they're there because of the outdoors. And I find like people in the Adirondacks, the history here is similar in that most people, it's not easy. Like most people work 2 jobs, and it's like, it's 45 degrees here today, but it's going to rain and snow this weekend. Like I have to think about, like, there's just things you think about when you live in these places that like, man, it'd be nice to not have to shovel for 5 months out of the year. But that being said, like there's a bit of like, I actually kind of like being like gritty like that and kind of badass, like there's something to it. And I think that's like a long, long lineage of Adirondackers that have like lived in the woods, hunted their own food, collected their own firewood, and, up until the people that are here today, I think I like to tell the story about like, I grew up on a street called Easy Street in Paul Smiths. and it's supposedly where all the guides lived when Apollo Smith was like created his hotel, and he'd bring people up from the city, like city slickers, to go hunting and fishing, and they would take them out in guide boats, you know, and Paul Smith's, and so all the guides lived on this hill. And this living was easy, so they named it Easy Street. But like those were the people, the guides, that like continued to stay here and make these this community what it is, I think. And so I like to consider myself more of the guides and less of the city slicker. But I don't know. It's I think you can find these communities in a lot of places, but there is something special to the Adirondacks for sure.
And your family's roots here? I mean, is it your parents dipped you in kind of the outdoor waters, or were their roots here?
Yeah.
Or was this something new for them, where they were like, we need a new path, a new chapter, and we're headed for the Adirondacks?
Yeah, no, my dad's from Binghamton and my mom is from Utica. So they, you know, lived on the outskirts of the Adirondacks and knew about it. They met in Old Forge, actually, way back when. And my dad was a forest fire lookout on Rondax Mountain, now called Bald Mountain, I think, down in southern Adirondacks, when they were still in service, like the fire towers were still utilized for watching for fire. So I have, I guess, a lot of roots here too, when you think about it that way. And a little known secret, considering only 30 people are going to watch this, I was actually born in Vermont. So
All right, Sarah, I'll catch up with Sarah next round when we cover the greens. It was nice. It was great to have you on for a bit, but
yeah. So I've been moonlighting as an Adirondack my entire life, but no, I moved here when I was 4 to Paul Smith's, and mainly because I think my parents wanted a community that was I don't know what's the right word, sort of like, you know, hard, not easy to get into, but not hard either, I guess. And my dad was a cabinet maker, and so it lended well to that.
And as far as I know, there's probably a lot of people that need cabinets in the Adirondacks, and I think Vermont's pretty played out in that regard. So I think that was a good call.
Yeah,
good call.
Agreed.
Yeah. Laura, also with you born and raised in Anchorage?
Yep.
So
I grew up there, and then after high school, made my move to the East Coast. So went to University of Vermont for undergrad, and then kind of did some like a little bit of back and forth between Alaska and Vermont. But then after grad school, been doing more of the New England exploring, the peak bagging, and that sort of thing. But I would say more of my mountain running in the Adirondacks, and just more the focus of mountain running has certainly been like post grad school.
Were you Anchorage proper? Were you kind of in outskirts, kind of on the flanks or in the hills, or?
It's a pretty spread out city.
Yeah.
So I would say trailheads are usually 5 to 10 minutes from where I grew up, so it was pretty convenient. But it's a really active community. A lot of people are into Nordic skiing, trail running. So everything's like really accessible. It was definitely a great place to grow up.
Do you feel like now, or coming out of winter, that you're kind of living in the lap of luxury with so much sunlight in the Adirondacks in winter?
I guess yes and no. I would say I'm kind of reminded of like the darkness when I go back and visit, like during the winter months. As far as like Anchorage, I do really enjoy the fall here. That's something that I didn't really get to experience growing up in Alaska, as far as like having like such a great, foliage, and just kind of being able to trail run all day, so to speak. So yeah, I really do enjoy it here as far as winter and fall options. It's a little bit more diverse. Yeah.
Do you think that it's possible? I've only had a couple Alaska trips, and each time flew in and out of Anchorage, and got some supplies before each trip, and got my share of the Anchorage sprawl, the nice flat. Do you think it's possible that you could fit the entire Adirondack range into the confines of the Anchorage sprawl?
No,
that probably wouldn't work, but
probably
close.
No. I mean, it's honestly hard to compare because we do, like, Alaska does have a lot of mountains to explore, like in
Yeah.
Anchorage.
Right there. Yeah.
But the trail system is still like pretty new versus the Adirondacks, and even in the Whites, the trails are so old and really defined. So a lot of the mountains that you do get to like access in Anchorage, it's like going on alpine tundra. So it's not really like you have a trail to follow. It's more of you're creating your own adventure and route.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to say, like,
Yeah.
I guess, how the Adirondacks would fit into the Front Range of the mountains in Anchorage. So I really don't know how to best answer that question.
Yeah,
because they're just different.
Yeah, clearly that's ridiculous. But it's just that Alaska is so vast, including
Right.
just Anchorage proper, but just such a huge landscape in all ways, shapes, and forms. And so do you think there's a greater chance that you'd be eaten by a wild animal in Anchorage or in the Adirondacks?
Definitely in Anchorage. Black bears are a big problem. Definitely something you have to be aware of versus the Adirondacks. They're a little bit more interested in food versus stalking or charging you. So,
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. Jay, growing up in Rochester on the within reach of the mountains, I couldn't tell, buddy, you are an active poster on Facebook. I think that I think my computer started steaming as I was trying to scroll to find your early photos on there to go. I was wondering, like, because it seemed like maybe around like 2016 you really started going deeper into some of the hikes and mountains, and I think that if I was more savvy here, I'd pull one of my screenshotted photos. There was one of the Sarah and the AmeriCorps. There was another of you, I think, with maybe it was your two dogs, and it was, I think, at the Whiteface placard, and it said we made it.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, man, like for you to like we made it to like to the top of Whiteface, to here you are next month about to finish your grid. Like that's a whole world of difference between Jay Whitbourne in 2016, as far as I can tell from your Facebook photos, and where you are right now.
It's probably 600 or 700 peaks difference, to put it in one term. But yeah, I started coming up in, I think it was 2014 is when I just kind of stumbled upon the 46, coming up to Lake Placid for the first time to visit, and just fell in love with the area, and went from never coming here to coming up 2 or 3 times a month, and finishing my first round of the 46 in 8 months. So I just got hooked and have been coming back ever since. And the last couple of years I've been trying to find a way to live here, and finally made the jump about a month ago. So it's been big progress.
And to Sarah's earlier comment in terms of just the scrapping together multiple hats to make a go of it, I probably feel it more driving into the Catskills than I do the Adirondacks in terms of just like the ruins porn. But it's not just like the Catskills were the ruins. They were these like grand hotels where people from the city would come up to, and until they got air conditioning, and then they stopped coming as much, or whatever it was. But like there's these busted, rundown, like one year there was like 1 million people visiting, and then suddenly there was just like nobody, and you can feel that. The Adirondacks feels different when I'm driving in. You see kind of in these places where people are just trying to make a go of it. It's like maybe this I don't know, kind of house that was like fixed up enough to just make some sort of business that maybe wasn't really like viable or whatever, but kind of points to people for a long time just trying to make a go out of it in multiple hats. And so for you now moving there proper, a place that has really become home for you, it's cool to see you basically making a go of it, or trying to make a go of it in a place that's become very personal to you. And so did you grow up kind of hiking and in the outdoors, or was it something that was like a later immersion?
I grew up going hiking with my family a little bit when I was a kid, going camping and hiking. Just always loved to be outdoors though. I had a ton of energy and finally found a good use for it now. But I've just always been active and outside. It was what drew me to come up here, was that I like to be active and outside. And my parents put me into sports when I was younger to use the energy for something. And as I got older, I just diverted away from the sports and ended up finding my way up here.
Yep. Right on. All right. Michael, so we're actually Laura and Sarah and Jay. Who's the first to define what peak Michael is currently on at the moment?
It's hard to tell. If you can name that peak, that may be a hint, but it's still really hard to tell.
It's tough with the clouds, but it almost looks like from Phelps, maybe.
You're close.
Oh, that's a hard question.
Kind of looks
That
like
is a really hard
Algonquin, but I don't know.
That's Algonquin.
You're on
Where am
Colden
I?
then?
Oh, so you're on Colden.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well done.
Just looks like clouds to me.
Yeah, that was impressive. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very grainy photo, but that was good. Wow.
And speaking how all you are in touch with just where you are. I mean, I'm here in Ithaca. We've got a few hills on either side, but I'm not sure, like, if you did a background photo of just like the hill, I don't know if I can tell you what hill that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's a good game to play actually when you're hiking, is just like try to point out the peaks that are
I love
surrounding
that. Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
and I've always enjoyed that too. For those of us who don't have the familiarity, like you all do, when you've been kind enough to let us tag along for better or worse, I think it's a lot of fun to point that out. And when I'm taking people around here too, it's fun to kind of point out some of the history and places as well. So that's pretty cool. I do wish, as I said before you got on, though, you would have a fan blowing so that I could feel like we're actually on the summit with you, but I'll take it.
Maybe
All right.
like fake snow coming down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You can do better.
Yeah,
all right.
next
And
time.
so for you and for your crew, since you run at Plattsburgh as well, right? Are you cross country, indoor and outdoor?
Yep, all three. Yep. Same with all my friends.
So that kind of squeezes in your mountain playtime into kind of off-season windows where you kind of have to go hard.
Yeah, definitely. We've definitely branched off into the more less time-consuming sports, I guess, like climbing, ice climbing, skiing, things you can do in like a few hours and still have like, the rush instead of having to trek out into the backcountry to get those really big mountains. But we make it work. We do. Yep. We're weekend warriors.
And Plattsburgh, is that I guess, is that like an hour from when you start getting into the peaks? What's the distance there?
Yeah, it's about 55 minutes to like exit 30.
Yeah, cool.
About 50 minutes to Whiteface.
All right. All right. So let's get into, I guess, some maybe questions that we'll hope that those who are listening can come away with some fun Adirondack kind of goals or things to check out. Let's start with your opinions in your experience. Best town or spot to base yourself for a long weekend of Adirondack adventure, assuming it's not your own house.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, I mean, Margaret Street's pretty great. I don't know. I do have a really good espresso maker, and I don't know if you've noticed, I've been making pastries lately. So it's like, and then I've got a gym. It's all inclusive in here. So
I feel negligent in my stalking because I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I think a lot of people would say Keene or Keene Valley if you were looking to like just do mountainous terrain, probably.
Yeah. Keene and Keene Valley are both good, but so is Saranac. You're just kind of outside of where all the busyness is, but you're still close to most of the trailheads.
Yeah, same with like Jay and Wilmington.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, usually my buddies and I will go down to like South Meadows and try to get a site down there for like the weekend or like a day or a night or something, and go to Wyatt's is usually our afternoon stop if we make it back in time, for sure.
Where's the South Meadows?
That's like down Lodge Road. So if you're coming out of like Lake Placid towards like Cascade Pass, head down Lodge Road, and it's like, there's a bunch of like, primitive campsites or whatever they call them on the map, but you can kind of see them strung about if you're an avid map reader like I am.
Yeah. So those embedded, I mean, Saranac definitely feels like a commercial hub for the Adirondacks.
Also, You should say Saranac Lake, because
Saranac Lake. I'm sorry. Yes.
Saranac
yes.
is also a town, and I do not recommend Saranac if you're looking to.
Yeah, Saranac's like a street corner.
Yeah, I mean, there's some like good like gravel riding you can kind of get to out that way in Saranac.
That's true.
But
good kayaking.
Not really for mountain running.
Yep. All right. Some of your, all right, so I'll weave in some of those kind of random questions. Let's get into some of the efforts. Some of the, I think, I shouldn't say a lot of you. I mean, there's 4 of you on here, but for at least a few of you, you've done some of the kind of, I don't know if iconic's the right word, or classic Adirondack routes, which may be FKT or not. I think at least 3 of you have done a bunch, if not 4. Personal ones for you, Jay. At one point I saw you, or at least caught that I think you reflected on, I think it was maybe the Bob Marshall Traverse,
Yes.
that it was fairly personal for you in terms of or it felt personal, whether you respected the history or the roots of Bob Marshall or something. Tell us about the Bob Marshall Traverse and what made that, I don't know, feel a draw for you.
For me, it was just, Bob Marshall is such an advocate for the Adirondacks. He really promoted them and he tried to look out for them. So it was a personal place for him to visit, and his days and time that he spent up here, he tried to make the most out of it, whether it was just going for a hike in the woods or trying to be competitive with another climber. But he really tried to make sure that people respected them. And so going and spending a day in the woods following his footsteps for me was something that just had a good meaning behind it. Not just because he used it as a competitive day to go race another peak bagger and out peak bag somebody, but because it crosses a lot of peaks that cover quite a large area of the heart of the high peaks. So throughout the day, you get so many amazing views out there that it's really hard not to have a good day. No matter how long and how tired you get, the views that you get all day just kind of keep you going. So it's just a really enjoyable day in the mountains.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, for you, being in Saranac Lake, the Saranac Lake Sixer, I imagine, is a pretty hometown personal one, I guess. Not to say that you might not have other favorites, but tell us about that one, being another kind of classics Adirondack thing.
Sure. So the Sixer started as like a kind of a tourist campaign, actually, to be honest, to get more people out of the high peaks and into these smaller mountains in the surrounding areas. And so it is 6 mountains that are, I guess, ranging in from like 1,000 feet of gain to, I mean, Mackenzie is probably close to 3,000 feet of gain, right? You guys, I don't remember exactly what it is. It's close to it, if not 3,000. But I mean, it's like, Mackenzie's a tough mountain, actually. It's always gets me every time I'm up there. I'm like, oh yeah, this is like pretty, like almost like a high peak. But yeah, so I mean, it's just sort of a fun way to see a lot of different terrain that now is quite busy. It's kind of, I don't know what the right saying is. There's probably a saying for this where it's like they wanted it and now it's like too much. You know, there's a lot of erosion, and the trail systems, like they've done a nice job on Ampersand, for example. The DEC put a lot of time into doing some trail work there to build some really nice staircases out of rock and that sort of thing so that it is better. But there's Baker Mountain right here in town, and a lot of the folks that live right near the trailhead are pretty upset with the parking situation and those sorts of things. So it feels a bit more like, you know, like something out west where people get, you know, if you're not there by 7 a.m., you're not going to get a parking spot type thing in the summertime. But yeah, there's still, you know, I think the beauty of being a local is that you can go anytime you want, you know, and I can run there from here, which is lovely. And you just, you know, summit it any time of day. The other surrounding mountains also are very nice. I mean, I would say St. Regis and Paul Smith is probably one of my favorite small runs of all time, only because I grew up out there. So it's like, you know, very nostalgic, but also very runnable and has a great view and not always that busy. So, yeah.
Laura, for one on your list, for another one, Lake Placid Niner.
Oh, in terms of
Just what it's all about. Yeah, just kind of getting it out there as maybe a route that somebody could go check out, or I don't know if they want to go try to pick off just something that's kind of put together in a route, and one that's has a competitive history as well.
Right, and I think that challenge kind of grew from the Sixer, if I'm not mistaken. And that one's kind of interesting because, again, like the Sixer, it's kind of choose your combination of mountains. So it's a little bit different in that it kind of takes you a little bit all over the place. So you could, start with Hurricane, or you're going all the way to Catamount. So you kind of have to plan it too based on if you want to end with something like easier, harder, or time of day type of thing, whether you might encounter traffic if you have to go through Lake Placid. So yeah, it's kind of fun in that you're connecting the dots like the Sixer, and you can either do it by yourself and drive yourself from trailhead to trailhead, or you could kind of spot a car with a friend, that type of thing. And I think it just gets people more active into doing like a challenge, within a day that's not necessarily one of the 46 high peaks. It's something that you can kind of explore different areas of the park.
Yeah. Michael, for you, I'm assuming you've done maybe some of these, but I shouldn't assume that just based on the college schedule and you guys are charging kind of when you have the time. But one of the routes that draws a good number of people up, I know I was really excited to do it with some friends up there the first time, because you cover such amazing, known Adirondack peaks. For those looking for a big draw, tell us about the Great Range.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like probably the most classic, maybe right in front of the Bob Marshall, as being like one of the things that draws people up here, especially peak baggers, because it's just such a it's a good line to look at on a map. I mean, if you come from like a climbing or skiing background, you're always trying to look for that perfect line, and I think the Great Range is probably like the penultimate line in the Adirondacks for peak bagging. So you hit, I think it's, I want to say 8, right? 8 peaks or 9, maybe
9 peaks.
9, right?
8 high peaks and 1 non-high peak.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and depending on which way you go, you usually start or finish with Marcy. But yeah, it hits. You're following this ridge line. You go up and down. I mean, the vert is crazy. The terrain is crazy. I remember the first time I did it, or maybe the only time I did it besides during the Bob. Like, I think we came from the Lodge, which is kind of on the other end of the park, and we did the non-FKT version. The FKT route kind of goes from the Garden up through Johnsbrook Valley, up to the saddle between Lower and Upper Wolfjaw, and then you hit the rest of the Great Range, which is from there. Armstrong, no, is that?
No, you start at Rooster Comb.
So yeah, and that's why
okay.
I was also going to say there's more than 9 peaks if you count.
Yeah, have at it. And Michael, sorry, I totally just put you on the spot. I was I figure I'll jump in, and I don't know.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
but the rest of you chime in. Yeah.
Because if you count Rooster Comb Hedgehog, then you have more mountains too. Yeah. And so the traditional like FKT running route is from the Garden. Now I just park down in Keene Valley behind the grocery store and run from there, and then up the hill, or down that way. Excuse me. But yeah, so up Rooster Comb and then all the way out the Great Range and then back, so you can just like spot a car and loop it yourself. But I think the traditional hiking route is to do it from the Lodge and actually go Marcy first, right, in the other direction.
First, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, crazy. I don't know, you hikers.
Yeah, I don't know. Fortunate enough to be able to spot cars with my buddy that one day we did it. But, nice. We were going for a hike. We weren't really running or anything. And just wanted to, this was like, I think my 3rd or 4th time really hiking the high peaks. And this was like 2 years ago. So I'm pretty new to the whole scene, but definitely jumping in with 2 feet. And I just remember looking from Upper Wolfjaw to Lower Wolfjaw, and like, elevation gain, I think it's like 10 feet difference between the two, or something really, really small, relatively speaking. But you have to go down. I'm not even sure the number, but it's multiple hundreds of feet to go right back up to basically exactly where you're just standing. And like linear distance, it's probably a quarter mile, not even. But you know, by the time you're walking, it's it is. It was crazy. And knowing that the car was like still, you know, 3 miles from the top of that was a whole nother thing. But there's a reason why people do it. It has such a draw to it, and it's just like, again, it's that line that you look for that everybody dreams of. Like it's the best.
And I like to say too, I think it's the hardest marked trail in the US for sure. Like if you talk about like the Saddleback Cliffs, and like that's a marked trail. You know, that's like true, I've certainly done some others. I've done a lot of things out west where you're like in scree and like, you know, you're not on a trail, you're off trail. Mm-hmm. And so I like to argue that I think the Great Range is the hardest trail in the US. And
then you have like the ore beds too, with the cables going up to Gothics. Right. It's like, you know, there's definitely like some class 3 scrambling. If you don't know you're getting into it, you kind of, you know, you may be jumping in.
I've definitely
a little too deep at first.
Run up on some people like starfished to the side of Saddleback.
yeah. But Saddleback that's where we have lunch. It's like the most beautiful vista once you get up there. Like you get through this like little scrambly bit, and then you're just chilling, looking over like a bunch of the slides. But it's great.
You should try to get some of those photos and make a calendar out of it, Sarah. You should make the Adirondacks starfish calendar.
That would be fun. Just on all the different peaks, just starfish a different area of the mountain.
Yeah. And speaking about the bob a little bit that Jay was talking about before, my buddy Jeremy and I, we did that as well. Just as a hike, you know, kind of trying to, similar to what Jay was saying, like my friend Jeremy, he was like super big into it, and he was the one who kind of brought me into the Adirondacks. He took me on my first high peak. You know, I think we did Allen as our first high peak because he needed it for his 46. And, you know, I was just stoked to be getting out here. So I slept in my car in the parking lot the night before, and like it was raining. It was like really eerie driving through like Pottersville. There's like one like neon sign outside of a bar once you get off the exit, and like super eerie driving down like Tahawus and through that area. But, you know, from there, he took me on the bob because this was something that really meant a lot to him. And he gave me the book. I don't know if you've read the book, Jay. It's like journals.
Yeah.
But, you know, he has, you know, Bob Marshall, he has this really detailed timeline of what time he hit all these peaks. And, you know, he had lunch on one of them. He had a friend join him for another. And, you know, he finished on Mount Joe, which is, if you're not familiar with the 80K Lodge, just like the small little mountain, I think 900 feet of gain over the whole thing. But it's like a mile and a half up and down, you know, round, like looping it. But yeah, I just remember doing that route or doing the bob and thinking the whole time that, man, this guy did this in like the 20s or 30s.
20s,
like,
yeah. And like, you know, jeans.
Predating modern shoes, predating vests, predating like synthetic clothing. And I think it took my buddy Jeremy and I 20 hours to do the whole thing. And I'm pretty sure Bob did it in like 18. And that's with stopping for lunch, you know,
breakfast.
And like, exactly. And there weren't marked trails like there were right now back then. And, you know, kind of the whole time is like, and throughout his journal entries, he kind of just speaks to like the devastation that he sees throughout the land from like logging and stuff. And it really speaks volumes to be able to go up there now and like see the really pristine beauty that, you know, we've been able to salvage from, you know, our past mistakes as people. But I mean, the Great Range is a part of the bob, and man, it's crazy. It's a crazy day, but it's a great day.
So that's what I'm talking about when I was saying, like, I think there's something in the Adirondacks that like brings these people here to do these types of like, you know, gnarly things just because, and they choose like a free will to do this stuff. Right.
Absolutely.
Like, and there's just that history here. I think it's so cool.
I'm pretty sure Bob Marshall has a like wildlife refuge or some sort of park out west, if I'm not mistaken. Jamie.
The Bob Marshall Wilderness. Yeah. It's in Montana. I think it's in Montana, if I remember correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, he always called the Adirondacks his home.
Yeah, and in that book, he talks about how many times he went up noon mark. Like, that's also kind of impressive, too. Like, just, like, trying to one-up any other peak bagger who decided to, like, essentially, like, beat him. So, yeah, it's a great source of history.
Definitely.
On that, in my last night's stalking and good use of time, Sarah, digging back through some of the photos that you've posted, and I was just trying to figure out how to share the screen here, but for some reason I can't share that window. But you had posted one or two, I think, photos commenting on a couple of the peaks that are named. I think it was Esther and another one that are named for some of the women in the history of the Adirondacks. So speaking of history of like Bob Marshall, And just what kind of along what you had just mentioned, also, Michael, in terms of before all this, maybe modern gear, modern apparel or whatever, I think you had the one or two historical photos of the women like at the summit and just in kind of what they were wearing and just kind of the bossness of the place and those efforts.
Yeah. You're speaking to, there's a couple of one photo at least of Grace on top of Whiteface, I think it was actually. And she's like in these wool knickers and like buttoned up thing and like laying on top of the rock on the top of Whiteface, and it's really lovely. But there's been a lot of women that have like made a lot of history, including Laura doing the first winter bob Marshall Traverse in the Adirondacks. So it's I think that's a pretty cool thing too. And like the story with Esther, I think she was like out for a hike one day and ended up summiting by accident on top of it. I can't really remember the exact story, but they ended up naming Esther after the peak after her, and she kind of had gotten lost and found, and but was just like out to hike in the mountains for fun, like in her wool attire, but and leather shoes probably that didn't have any grip. I can't even imagine. It's probably just smooth bottom or something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's there's something pretty cool here. But I think in general too, like you'd find that in other places. I guess in the East Coast, it's just there's so much history here that but out west too, I mean, there's definitely like got to be some cool like mining town vibes, in some places where you can learn these stories, and like but yeah, I think it's a cool aspect for sure.
Sometimes you get the those that are recreating, I don't know, Shackleton's voyage or kind of whatever. Maybe just one weekend you just need to go after some of these FKTs just wearing like this long wool skirt and just like these like rigid boots up there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that could be a thing. I don't know.
You think you're kind of a sissy, comparably?
I know.
I mean,
yeah, kind of. I guess when you put it that way, yeah,
mm-hmm.
For sure. And like, what are they eating? You think like, yeah, like I don't know.
Hardtack.
I don't know.
Yeah, just like an old crust of bread.
Yeah,
Bob definitely wrote about it. Yeah.
Yeah, like wrapped up in a piece of wax paper and like drinking out of the streams, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
Laura, how long did the winter Bob Marshall take you?
I think it took me 15 hours and something like 35 or 45 minutes. But honestly, that was probably my most memorable FKT to date. Like, it was all by myself. I just really felt like it was just a really like epic day, and I actually ran into Jay while I was doing it, and
Yep.
It was just a really like it was an awesome route, and it's hard to describe like just how special it was because it was hard, and it's a lot of like managing your food, your water, and you kind of have to do your homework and your planning just really to like build up to that. And I honestly had never really, I had done one Great Range like entirely before I had done that route. So it was just special to like experience the whole day, start from one point and then like have just an epic sunset on Algonquin, and just really, kind of experience the whole park.
That's awesome. So do you kind of want to go at it again and see if you can improve your time, but only use maybe a day old biscuit in a napkin?
Probably not that nutrition plan, but
maybe we can petition FKT to make a new category of like only historic attempts in historic attire with historic like food sources.
Exactly. That'd be great.
I mean, the Leadville donkey race makes them still carry like I think like 25 pounds worth of like iron for like a pan or something like that. So maybe we got to do the same thing. Yeah.
Hardtack.
You guys were mentioning a bit just in terms of when you were, Michael, up there talking about the Wolf Jar looking over some of the others. I think one of the very, potent moments for kind of processing just how rugged the Adirondacks are for me being this rube, I still laugh at myself when I was just going in. I've said it before. I don't know whether I hurt you more than I helped you trying to support when you're going after the Adirondacks 46. When I was going with Jay, I remember it just because I don't have the mountain experience you guys have, right? I have some fitness or whatever, but I was showing up and I was thinking I was going to use this pack, but it just didn't accommodate. I think what I thought it would accommodate or something, or maybe I started in and I was like, oh crap, like under this load, like I'm getting hot spots on my hip or whatever. And Jay was trying to be right on point, kind of like, it's time to go. And we've got a certain amount of time to get these supplies to meet you at a certain location. And I'm just like, buddy, like I'm going to have to go back because this pack isn't working. And I think I switched it out and I just remember running back in, carrying like a sleeping bag under one arm, like a backpack under something else. And I felt like I wasn't even as good as a Boy Scout out there. Like I felt ridiculous running into this like backcountry, totally just a liability out there. But I think when we were up on, maybe it was either Cliff or Redfield and looking over and you just talking about where Atkins had made the traverse, I think from whatever coming off the Great Range over to there, just the terrain is just monstrous. Like the depth of that little valley or whatever, paired with just how impenetrable the Adirondack bushwhacking is. I mean, it's just a ridiculously rugged country.
I think that's so true. Well, and so he came from Allen to Redfield, which is a very intimidating bushwhack that not many people have really attempted. Laura's other half, Corey, has done it and was Ryan's kind of intel, I think, for that, right?
Oh yeah. And he only scouted it just a little bit before, so he was with the right person. After doing the 46 attempt, I don't necessarily need to be bushwhacking anymore, I don't think, in the Adirondacks, but and I recently found myself off trying to find a ski line actually up there in that type of terrain, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what it's all about up here in the Krumholtz, like basically just like pulling myself between trees to try to like find the line, and eventually we found it. But it's pretty wild in there.
I don't know if I mentioned it to you, Sarah. I think I mentioned in a prior episode. I forget what we were talking about, but I don't know if it was with you or not. But when I was initially trying to create the original Whiteface course, initially, I think Jan and I ran up and over the ridge and back past the Atmospheric Research Center, and then they just didn't permit that in terms of being up high. But then we also kind of got the okay from Aaron with Whiteface, potentially use the slides if we wanted. And then again, here is me speaking to my kind of, ignorance with the, some of these areas. But we got up there and I think did one of the slides and I was like, yeah, dude, this is awesome. I can see how sketchy it would be. And there's a huge risk for somebody just getting wrecked. But kind of the more sobering point was getting to the top and then just doing the bushwhack from the top one of the slides over to the top of the summit chair. And I was just like, what the crap? Like this is ridiculous. You can't move through this forest. And I talking to, I think on the Catskills episode with Mike Sudi, who's is about as experienced as anybody like in the Catskills. He's just painting the picture of like, here's this vegetation that's just built to take like 200-mile winds, in these extreme conditions, like year round or whatever. And like, you can't really touch a thing. Like it's built to just be like impenetrable or whatever. But that's not something that I've really experienced in the forests of Pennsylvania or in the time living out west or whatever. Like that's just a whole beast of rugged country.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I would say, like anyone that has been on top of these, Adirondack peaks and talked to like the summit stewards and stuff, they don't want us really bushwhacking in there because there's actually a lot of, vegetation that occurs up in those alpine regions that does not occur anywhere else. And they're like, right, it's 200 years old and it's only grows a millimeter, a month or something in the like 3-month growing period that it has. And that we go and like try to like bushwhack our way through something off of a summit and we just crush it and like ruin 500 years worth of growth. so just to put my little like educator hat in there and say, and do my good deed, they don't recommend we're doing any bushwhacking up there at all.
And it would seem like some of the routes were just kind of carved. I was like, instead of actually creating a formal trail through this area, and yes, there's a lot, and yes, there's a lot of erosion, and they're all over. But it also seems like it's not atypical for the Adirondacks to be like, actually, here's a creek wash, and we're just going to kind of call this a trail. We'll just call it good here.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a game called Is It a Stream or Is It a Trail?
Yeah.
Good. There's a question here, and I think it's when you guys were talking about maybe, and Kwana, correct me here, but maybe when you guys were talking about the Bob Marshall's like journal or book, which book, looking for the title?
Probably something simple like Bob Marshall or something. I got it from a friend. I'm not sure exactly. I don't own a copy myself. I've been looking for one. I can't seem to find it anywhere in person.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So yeah, we can follow up Kwana as well, or maybe some of them looks like maybe they're looking at the moment, and I can follow up. So in all of your time up there and going after the grid, Jay, what's the nastiest bushwhack that you've experienced in the Adirondacks?
Oh, that's a really good question. There's been a lot of them. I want to say back in maybe 2016, I did one in the winter for McNaughton, which is the unofficial 46er. It's a 4,000-foot peak that is not on the list. And no one had been out there all winter. A couple groups had tried to get out there. It's a trailless peak, and people made it about a quarter of the way. And one of my friends and I went out there, and there was probably 4 or 5 feet of snow on the ground. And we made it halfway in about, I think, 8 hours. And we had to break trail the whole way back because it was snowing all day, and just pushing through the trees, having snow just dumping on us the whole entire time. It's like you're getting poked and soaked at the same time. So it's just like this -20 day where you're soaking wet, getting poked by trees the entire day.
And in that moment, you're like, yeah, this is life is good right now. This is what I'm here for. Or does that kind of make you question some of your decisions in life?
We were questioning it when we turned around, but then about 20 minutes later, we decided that we were going to come back the following weekend and finish, and not tell anyone all week that we went out there, so no one would use our trail to get there. So we went back 5 or 6 days later and went through the whole misery all over again to actually get to the summit. And as we went further, it got worse. We were moving about a quarter mile an hour because it was just so dense and the snow was so deep. But we got it.
So do you think that bushwhack, and leading into this comment from a current viewer, do you think that bushwhack was easier or harder than if you were to bushwhack Michael's hair? What do you think would be harder?
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, I think it looks pretty
kind
of flowing there.
Yeah.
And pretty
Yeah, it
smooth.
looks pretty smooth. I don't think that's so bad.
You should see it after a hike or a ski, especially after being in a helmet all day. Yeah, it gets pretty gnarly.
So, Laura, in your time, and then maybe Sarah or others as well. So, Jay just talked about just a moment going after, I guess, a peak or a goal or a target there that maybe had him questioning things. Any points where you found yourself on some epic adventure and you're like, maybe this wasn't such a good idea, or kind of, what am I doing here?
Well, I would have to say, so my better half, Corey Delaval, is a master bushwhacker, and I would say that's when I typically question, was this the right choice? So it's like you're kind of suffering through it, but then at the end of the day, you kind of debrief and you're like, well, it wasn't that bad. But certainly in the beginning, when I started like hiking off trail with him, I was like, what is this? Like being scratched and from like, branches all over, and, trying to like protect your eyes and stuff. But it is fun in that you get to see stuff that not many other people get to see unless they're doing that very thing. So yeah, pros and cons. But like any Adirondack trail or mountain, like trailed or untrailed, it definitely makes you work for it. So I think it has some good character building.
Yeah, in that character, was it also relationship building? I mean, because I could see how that might go the other way.
Yeah. Well, definitely I learned that I could, trust him 100% as
Are you
far
sure?
as
Because
like
he's
where
taking you to some really
Yes.
terrible kind of terrain.
No,
and
no, no,
like,
no,
you know,
no.
yeah.
He proved very early on how accurate he was, and back before I even had like a GPS watch, I'd be like asking him, okay, like how much climbing do we have left? Like how many miles or whatever, and he'd be really accurate with his descriptions and even saying like, okay, we're coming out of the bushwhack here and we should be, getting onto the trail at this point. So rest assured, he proved early on how reliable he was. So I didn't really question much. It was just more of like, how rugged is this bushwhack would be my question.
And how would Grace or Esther have Bob done that back in the day? How would they be like, we're up 1,000 feet now, we've got like 1,200 to go. Are you kind of like, you're kind of carrying a little sundial with you and you're like, I think we're this much higher?
Well, I mean,
No idea.
also Corey is very good with like a map and a compass, so it wasn't like he was just looking at his watch and telling me. So a lot of people who are good at bushwhacking, it's not like they're following a lot of the data that's out there in terms of like people's routes. Like they are very good navigators as well. So it's a lot of reading the terrain and being very experienced.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, they had compasses. Like if they were using compasses.
Yeah, that's true. To answer your question.
I just looked it up to be sure, but yeah, they did.
Yeah, but they also had this rudimentary map that wasn't exactly the USGS survey that we're using from like 1972.
They just judged the tree heights.
It's
If
from
the trees get shorter, you're getting closer.
Right.
You could do that.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like this hand-drawn map from the early explorer that shows this squiggly line as a creek and then maybe a pine tree right there.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Sarah, one of your moments where maybe it made you question your decisions.
I mean, there's been a lot of those, but more so like just more like my body not being prepared for it than like the terrain itself, like I guess I know what I'm getting into if I'm going to be bushwhacking, I know what I'm getting into if it's a trailless peak most of the time, I think there's I think it's being prepared, and like certainly sometimes have been rougher than others if I'm, intentionally trying to really beat myself up, then, but again, it's like I was prepared for that. That's what I went out for. But there's definitely been times, I guess, that I've gone out and not expected, like, I'm trying to think of like, I don't know. There's definitely some trails that are like pretty gnarly that aren't really, I don't know, like every time I do the Stewards, I'm like, oh yeah, yep. This is not really a trail, like it's just sort of bouldering and like lifting yourself up stuff. But again, like I know what I'm getting into and I like enjoy that at the time. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
So particularly at least some of the areas that I've been in around, I don't know, maybe it was Marcy or Giant or some things have, I think, enough erosion, enough foot traffic where it's some actually really good, like runnable terrain. Do you all have favorites for days where you don't necessarily want to power hike it? You don't necessarily want to bushwhack. You want to go for a flowy run in the Adirondacks. What would be a couple of your choice destinations?
Giant and Rocky Peak are some pretty good ones.
So I'll highlight like all the beta bike trails are amazing for running. Some are technical, some are not. And so I use those a ton in the early spring to like get some good training in on a trail that's they're well built. So they are made to like dry out and shed water and that sort of stuff early on. Certainly if they're really muddy, don't leave tracks. But and then too, like last fall, I was finding like I did a bunch of trail that I had never done and found some really nice running, like in the, I guess I can't remember the name of the trail exactly. It goes from Elk Lake around to Pinnacle, and that was really nice. So there's definitely a trail out there that you can find that people don't use a lot that is very nice and runnable and soft and not eroded.
Yeah, my friends and I, we usually just get up to like Marcy Dam or something if we're looking for like something short, sweet, and like kind of flat. Or like if we want to keep going Avalanche Lake, but again, for like the big boulder field and you're kind of getting closer, so it tends to get a little not as fun runnable terrain. It's not as flowy, but that's like what we end up doing. Or taking the truck road to get to Marcy Dam, kind of looping it, run around the lodge, Heart Lake, and then usually if we're parked at South Meadows, we just run down the road, make some oatmeal or something, and call it a morning.
And Laura?
Yeah, and even some of the smaller mountains, like in the Keene Valley area too, can be really great, especially like as things kind of dry or melt out. You can find some really fun trails there, like Hurricane, Big Crow, Little Crow, that sort of thing.
So in some of these destinations, whether it be you're going after this is just you want a Sarah day or a Laura day or a Jay day or a Michael day. Like this day is like about me. Like I want to be, I want my happy place here. So you got maybe you run, maybe it's a hike, maybe it's just a spot. What's your happy breakfast location? Again, that's not your own kitchen.
I like to run out to Avalanche Lake in the morning. Michael mentioned that. That's one of my favorite little places to just go for like a run out to, just relax for a little bit. It's just such a nice view. And if you go early in the morning, it's generally not busy at all. If you get out there for breakfast, most people are going out when you're coming back.
Yeah, a little bit north of the high peaks, if we're diversifying a little bit. For Plattsburgh people, Poco Moonshine is like the place to be. I mean, it's like 20 minutes from campus, 20 minutes from the city. So like you get all the college kids get out there. It's kind of like the first hike that people do when they get up here for like getting into the Adirondacks. But it's a beautiful mountain. It's short. It's sweet. A few different ways to get to the top of it. And it's like a recreator's playground. I mean, I know all my friends and I, we climb there, we run there, we hike there. People have skied it. I haven't skied it this year. I don't think we had enough snow like consistently, but it's probably one of the few mountains that I've been able to get to like between classes or something, like by myself, just to like get the view, get some time alone, and like chill up there.
And I think I have done that one and really enjoyed it as well, actually.
Yeah, it is a beautiful trail, and it's well put together too. The steps on the steeper side kind of suck to run up, but like you can take the observer's trail and it's like a little more mellow and kind of loops around. And
the steps also though make it feel more, I don't know, cool. Like I don't know, in the mountains.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Pressure, kind of whatever.
Definitely.
Sarah, you were leading in there.
It was Laura, but
oh, it's Laura.
Laura, go ahead.
I really like Noonmark actually. It kind of feels like a high peak, but you can just really get some great views of the Great Range, and just has some really like fun runnable sections, but then also like kind of scrambly.
I mean, man, that's a tough thing. I think I'd have breakfast in a number of places all over the park, but the Hopkins is one of my favorites for that reason. Like short and sweet. If you just need like a quick run, that's certainly probably my go-to. But it all depends on what I'm training for too, and like I think anywhere that like you can get out and get some solitude is could be that spot for me.
This just speaks to you being tough in the mountain athlete, right? Or like, I'm talking about just like this Sarah day where it's just supposed to be like relax and enjoyable. And you're like, I don't know, it depends what I'm training for. Like, I'm not talking about training. I'm talking about just Sarah day.
I know, but that's all part of it, I guess, for me, right? Like, I don't know. And I guess that's just where my mindset is at lately. I'm very focused.
Fair.
So,
all right.
yeah.
So they are locations in the park, so to speak. How about business establishments that have the yummiest pancakes, your favorite omelet, your favorite baked good that's not being made in Sarah's kitchen, something to that effect?
Margaret Street like hits all those boxes. So
I'll jump in with
Go ahead.
Yep, hit it.
I'll go for Wyatt's. I mentioned before. Wyatt's Tex-Mex right on Main Street in Lake Placid.
Yeah, you guys gotta come see me next time. I'm at the Fallen Arch on Thursdays.
Oh, word. Okay, sweet. Yeah, we'll try to make that happen.
Only
one of these
Thursdays,
days, but
so.
okay, gotcha. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, they're great. I'm vegan, so like, you know, I've been to the Noon Mark Diner and I haven't been able to like enjoy the savory goodness that like everybody, you know, raves about. But like,
have you had the pie yet? You gotta have the pie.
well, exactly. I haven't been able to eat the pie yet.
At Wyatt's?
One of these days, I'm gonna have to break. At the Noon Mark Diner.
Oh, Noon Mark. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But Wyatt's is great. I mean, you walk up, get your little sheet. I've like saved my little sheet that you like check all your food off on. And I just bring it back every time. And like, it's great. I love it there. I've been probably like 4 or 5 times in the last 2 weeks. I'd say it's amazing.
4 or 5 times in the last 2 weeks. Wow.
Maybe 4. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it feels like I've had a lot of burritos.
That's commitment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kawana just said Nori's, which is a good spot in Saranac Lake. Yeah, if you're looking for a good like grab and go or coffee or something like that. I recently found a blog post that I wrote from like 2015 about gas stations and like places like that in the Adirondack Park that are my favorites to go to. And some of them still exist. And so those include like the Little Super in Wilmington is a really good stop if you're in that zone, like doing whiteface. Down in Keene, I mean, Old Mountain, it used to be in my blog, it was Subalpine, but now Old Mountain Coffee is the place to go if you're down that way. And then, I mean, in Placid, we're kind of lacking, to be totally honest, like a good coffee shop that, you know, there's Starbucks on Main Street, but yeah, things have come and gone around that zone. Yeah, and then Margaret Street Cafe.
Dude, I just keep feeling like a wuss here. Like I'm trying to find these nice breakfast spots. One of my favorite breakfast spots
it's right
ever.
Here. Yeah.
It's right there. It's the Blue Moon Cafe on like Main Street or whatever in Saranac Lake. And here you are, you live in that town, and you're like, I don't know, like you look at the list of gas stations. Come on, like, gas stations. I'm like, you got a wonderful restaurant.
I make waffles 5 days a week from like in my own kitchen and have an espresso with it. So like I'm good, you know.
So your day out is the gas station fare. That's good. That's the excitement.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh. All right.
It's been a while since I've sat down for breakfast anywhere. Yeah.
Well, maybe next time I'm up, can I take you out for breakfast?
I love that.
In a breakfast spot in your hometown? That would be great.
Yeah. Origins too. They have pretty good coffee and breakfast too. Yeah, I should say that's a good one.
Jay, go ahead.
There is a tiny little restaurant in Cranberry Lake that I don't think it actually has a name. It's just like this little log cabin restaurant.
Come on, it's got to have a name.
The owner serves you breakfast after he makes it in like gym shorts and a white t-shirt. And
that's awesome.
It's just this little log cabin. They have ice cream in the summer and breakfast in the summer. I don't think they serve anything besides breakfast and ice cream. And when you buy pancakes, he asks you if you want to pay an extra $1 for real maple syrup or if you want that high sucrose bullshit. Mm-hmm. So he's very direct and upfront to you about it. And no one ever says no to the real maple syrup.
You should just try it one time and just be like, yeah, actually, I like the Aunt Jemima's. That would be awesome. Thanks.
I feel like you might kick me out.
Uh-huh. Or you should be brought your own and you pull it out of your pocket and it's a plastic bottle of log cap. You're like, I'm good. I got mine. Yeah. All right. Laura?
I'd have to agree with Sarah. Old Mountain Coffee is pretty good. But I also really like Cedar Run. So it's more of like a grocery store, but they have a lot of good like baked goods that I think can be really fun to pick up and try.
I think each time I come up, Jan would be prepped for it, and maybe it was partly by request, partly because he's just a sweet guy, and I tried to have him on tonight too, but he wasn't buying in. But he'd get me the granola, the homemade granola bars or whatever from Cedar Run. That just kind of became my favorite granola bar on earth. That I would gladly take into any backcountry where I had a sleeping bag under one arm and another pack on my back.
And we'd all be remiss if we didn't talk about Stewart's though too.
Yeah.
I was actually
Yeah,
about to
that's
say
true.
that exact same thing with the exact same wording. We would be remiss if we didn't bring up Stewart's, because I know we've all been to the Keene Valley Stewart's at some point in like
Breakfast,
our
lunch,
darkest
or
times and our
dinner.
happiest moments. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yes.
yeah, whether it was the best day or the worst day of your life, I feel like
A milkshake
at least
solves
one of them
it
has
all.
ended with
Yeah.
a Stewart. Yeah, Stewart's run.
I've started to question that logic though. Like, I was on some of the days where I'm really just depleted and tapped out. Yeah, those milkshakes are pretty fantastic. But in a day where it's like, this day's like pretty good. Like, I don't
Treat
necessarily.
yourself. Get it.
Yeah,
But
celebrate.
then I'm like,
Try
actually,
a new
this milkshake
flavor.
isn't that great. Like, like the ice cream's okay.
Whoa.
But yeah,
Whoa.
I know. Just saying.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean,
guess.
have you lived until you had a butter sandwich from Stewart's? No.
It's a good breakfast. They carry well.
Yeah. Bob Marshall had one.
Yeah.
His was
Yeah.
like a week old though. Like that.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
All right, so that's the morning. How about for full summer day? You're coming out pretty depleted, and you just want some calories. That's maybe not necessarily. It could be a Stewart's milkshake, but it could just be like you want something fatty and salty that's just delicious. Where's your go-to?
I kind of covered that already.
You're just gonna stick with
Wyatt's.
Wyatt's every
Yeah,
time.
I didn't realize the last question was a breakfast question, but Wyatt's is.
So maybe that's
breakfast.
that's going to come out of this. Maybe we look for a Wyatt sponsorship for your crew.
There
You
you
know,
go.
I think that's something we should talk about over here at the 80K Crawler Enterprise.
Mhm.
Definitely.
I go to there's a it's called 80K Street Eats in Raybrook, and it's a food truck. Not very fast. Sometimes I call ahead, like I'm driving, and I'll be like, "Okay, I'm gonna have the chicken tacos," and she'll be like, "Okay, 45 minutes, perfect." But there's also a fly fishing shop there that has a bar in it next door, and so you go there and you chat with the guys that have been out guiding fly fishing all day and drink beer while you wait for your 45-minute hot dog. It's great.
That's a good hot dog, though.
Yeah, I mean they are good. It's a good hot dog, but they also have really good micro draft brew on there too.
Stewart's might be the go-to for the lunch if you're coming out and you really want something that's just salty and filling. I mean, you
All
can
right, let's
call
move
it.
past lunch and let's go to dinner. Just so maybe that gets around the
They-
Stewart's
they-
window. Is dinner still the Stewart's still dinner?
They do.
Yeah,
They
pizza.
do.
They
You can
have
even
it
call
all.
ahead and order a whole pizza. Like for $10, how do you go wrong for a large
Because that's
pizza?
just cardboard with nothing. All right, moving on.
Cardboard
Laura?
calories.
I think Lisa G's is a really good place for dinner. Like they have pizza and just a lot of like really good food. So I think you can't go wrong there.
True.
I like to go down the street to Bitters and Bones. Good
Yeah,
spot.
that is a good place.
Jan has often or historically would get us the pies from Noonmark. How about best baked goods in your Adirondack circuit, which is not Stewart's.
How about Margaret Street Cafe?
Margaret Street Cafe.
No, I am really proud. I just made these.
I just started writing down Margaret Street Cafe before I was like, oh wait.
It's just my house.
Yeah,
But I just made these Danish pastries last week. I mean, like to die for. Yeah, I'm really proud of them. I wish you could pull up my photos on Instagram to show them. But no, I think otherwise, there's a couple of good bakeries in town here. There's Early Dawn Confections that opened this past fall in Saranac Lake. She has great stuff.
Jay, are you just out because I said Stewart's isn't an option?
I got nothing else. I mean, they do make good butter sandwiches.
Uh-huh.
They're good rolls.
In Lake
Yeah, I
Placid, there's enough pastries in Lake Placid. They have, but their hours are really weird. She's only open like a couple days a month, I feel like, from like 10 to 2, and you have to like hit it at the right time when the light is shining correctly, or you'll never get in.
It's that Adirondack
Secret
business
door.
model. And
Yeah.
you wonder why that things don't make it because you're like, you've got no actual hours. Yeah.
Right. There's got to be somewhere in Plattsburgh that has good pastries and stuff.
There's got to be. I'm not going to lie. I haven't really dove deep into the downtown
Rombox.
scene here.
Rombox. That's a Rombox. Yeah. Go to
I'm gonna have to put that on the list. College budget. I just don't.
Yeah, sure.
I don't really get out past the dining hall. Like I got my my second dinner right here from the Halal Shack. I'm waiting to eat that. I've been eating dining hall cookies all day. The Clinton Dining Hall makes a fantastic vegan cookie. It is incredible. I'll go down there and there'll be like a whole little tub of them, like maybe once a week. You can't really plan it, but I'll just like grab a whole bunch, put them in my room, and like save them.
I've really enjoyed the food truck coming off of I don't know, whatever the 80 road is coming into
there.
Yeah, it's like the Greek. I think it's Greek. Maybe he's got other stuff. That's been pretty yummy, though. For those of you who may listen, actually, what are the routes there to give people the heads up? I know things visually. I don't even pay attention to what road numbers are. Where are you getting off like the northern thruway or whatever, and then heading toward Keene Valley from there, whatever that main road is.
73.
Exit 30. Yeah, 73.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so food truck usually in that first turnout there or whatever. But I did learn quickly that if you try to eat while you drive, it's really easy to just destroy a pair of pants in the amount of whatever he puts in there. All right, Laura, what you got on your late day option?
Yeah,
or your baked
Newmark
goods? Yep.
Oh,
Baked goods.
yeah, Newmark for pies for sure. I don't think I've had a better pie since going there. Yeah, Old Mountain, Cedar Run. There's also a place in Lake Placid that I think does like some baked goods and sandwiches, but I can't remember the name of it. Sorry.
How about date night for you and Corey, Laura? Where's the high rolling? This is this is a anniversary dinner that doesn't include Stewart or candles on a mountaintop. Where are you going?
Right. We don't really go out to eat that much, to be honest. So
That's
our
why you
date night
bushwhack as
is
a
on the
couple.
mountains.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I keep remembering this is
But
the
ice cream. We do like soft serve ice cream. Yeah. So Newmark also has very good ice cream. So sorry, no go-to restaurant for us.
It's fair. All right. How about so we talked about some of the runnable trail kind of choice destinations or locations, and Alicia weighing in there with Donnelly's ice cream.
Another fun fact, that was my first job ever. Donnelly's
is that where you took us, that soft serve that one time?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that was and you wanted us to have a cool, just kind of experience, and it was interesting.
What was the flavor that day?
I think it was some sort of twist. It had some sort of
it's always a twist.
peachy
Don't ask
twist.
for vanilla, you won't get it.
So all right, so for those not familiar, because it was a pretty cool old school thing. For those not familiar, tell us about Donnelly, Sarah.
So Donnelly ice cream used to be actually a farm, like a dairy farm. It no longer actually has cows. Like there are cows on the property, but they are not dairy cows, and they're not actually getting their cream from those cows. I think they put them there just as a
good
farm.
image.
Yeah. But there is like the old barns and stuff, and so I think I was like 14, and so they go back there and you get the big they would buy the cream and put it in these big metal containers like you were carrying cream, in the olden days, and you carry it down from the barn, and you use this from 1950s. They still have the same machine that makes the ice cream, and they have the big churning things on the on the inside. So you'd have to climb up on this milk crate and pour the cream in, and then it just churns away, and so you get a different flavor every day, always mixed with vanilla. The line's out around the door. Now they nicely have signs that say these things like, you can only order 3 different sizes. You only can get a twist. There's no straight vanilla. So it's kind of funny. Because you get all those questions. That was my first experience of customer service and what it meant to work with the public in that way. But yeah, I worked there for several summers. But it is a mainstay for lots of folks. I mean, it's a great stop if you're on a bike, doing a road ride. It's a good stop to get some calories for sure. They only take cash too.
Oh yeah. Maybe that was the original also sport drink carried by Grace and Esther and Bob. They had the hard tack from a week ago, and they just had a metal jug of the cream on their back that they just dip into.
Yeah. Why not?
All right. So your go-to, so you talked about some kind of a go-to place for a nice run. How about your happy place? I guess if you were to choose kind of one hike or one peak in the Adirondacks that if you could only go to one for the rest of your life, where are you most spiritually at home in a place?
That's a really hard question.
I ask hard questions here, Michael. They are hard questions.
Well, for me, actually, it's going to be in a boat, not on a mountain peak. I think probably in the St. Regis Canoe area somewhere. Yeah, like so as a kid, I grew up like we would just go out to like Osgood Pond and those sorts of places for lunch, and like make a fire. And so I think that's where my happy place is probably. Favorite mountain is, most summited high peak is probably Whiteface, I guess, but yeah.
So for you, one that you just still, despite it just being Whiteface and most summited, you just keep returning.
Keep doing it forever, I think.
Is that because you're always training for something and you're just like, I don't know, like Whiteface is a good training mountain?
No, because yes, but no. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I think it's I guess I've summited it in so many different ways and seasons. That's part of it too, probably. But yeah.
Laura, where's your happy place?
Oh, I have to pick one mountain. It's so hard.
Well, you can pick a couple. That's fine.
A couple. Yeah. Okay, good. I really like Giant.
But you have to order them. You have to. So if you just said Giant, that's not actually top of the podium, then you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Giant, if I had to really pick one, and then the Dick's Range, or like Dick's itself, Dick's Mountain, because it's so like steep and in your face.
Mm-hmm. Michael, happy place for you and the other Hansons?
Ooh, yeah. My personal favorite probably is Saddleback, just because like you get that little climb if you're coming from, I'm not sure what direction that is, but you go up the cliffs, and then that's always been like our pit stop, just because like you get the crazy vista, like the exposure is beautiful. And not mountain peak, but like place that I always get like a really good feeling is going through like Keene Valley, like down 73, passing like Chapel Pond Slab, you go past Chapel Pond. Like trying to get into all those different sports, it's become like just like you get that good feeling when you're going through there, like something good's gonna happen that day, whether it's like just going up the slab with my buddies, like going for a little rock climb, or like I don't know, there's some other crazy hard stuff you can do in there, and just like it is such a good feeling. Like if you've been there, you feel it. Like you get the giant icicles in the winter hanging off like across the pond for like power play and all those crazy ice climbing routes. And then you have the upper washbowl, lower washbowl, and the spider's web, which is this for the climbers, like this crazy, slightly overhanging like plumb wall that like just stands out. And like you look at it and it's covered in all these cracks, and it's just like it's like a playhouse. It's talk about lines. It's like it's got all those lines. It's great. It's such a good place. And then you get to the village, and you can stop at the Mountaineer, and I have a few buddies that work there, and there's always something that I need that I don't really need, but like I tell myself I need, so I can take a stop and get it, because it's a great place to be.
That's a good question. Best gear shop.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, let's go there next. Sure. Jay, give me your happy place, and then we'll go to gear.
For me, it's probably Haystack. I can still remember the first time I ever saw it, when I was going up Marcy for the first time in the winter, and all I saw was the summit of Haystack above a cloud inversion, and it just looked like this incredibly epic mountaintop. And I had to look at a map to figure out what I was looking at, and I decided that day that's where I was going to finish my 46. And when I finished my first round there, I had it all to myself, and just remember standing there and just being in awe of everything that was around it. And every time I go back there, even if it's just to go there, it's not one of the closer peaks to get to. So you kind of always have that in your head that you got 8-9 miles to get there. And then when you get there, you forget how long it took, because it stands out. And it's the way you have that full 360 view of high peaks, just has a way of making you feel special to be there.
I think that was one of Bob's favorites too.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he had that up in his, like, he ranked them all, and I think that was like his top 3 or something.
And because again, he's as knowledgeable as anyone. Laura, for Corey's happy place, where are you going to set up? If you were to, are you guys dating? Are you married? What's your relationship status?
No, we're dating.
You're dating.
This is a personal, like.
Yeah. Now we might as well make
We're
it.
getting into personal questions.
Yeah. So is Corey in the room at the moment? Is he looking at you? Is he there?
No, he's not. So wait, what's your question?
Well, yeah. All right. I'm formulating in my head right now. There's no pre-assigned questions here. But because I was thinking of just people's kind of happy spot. So if you are going to very creatively stage a proposal to Corey coming up, and you were going to stage something up in the mountain, you're going to have some sort of ring planned. Where would Corey want to be proposed to? And I'm going to follow up just to see, like, if it happens. This is kind of like a newlywed, like if you kind of know your prospective spouse well enough. Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
This is a game we play at Bachelorette recently, actually.
Good. Nice.
Well, I mean, we met at Whiteface, so probably somewhere on Whiteface.
Mm-hmm. So in which case you'll probably have Sarah kind of cruising by just on a train.
Hi
guys.
Totally.
Yeah, going up there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. So granted a lot of events, so some not to miss, I guess, events. I don't know how many you're able to for permitting in the Adirondacks. You've got I'm assuming most of you have done most of them, but you've got the Great Adirondack Trail Run put on by the Mountaineer. You've got Whiteface mountain races. You have the Wakely. Other ones I'm missing up there that are able to be pulled off that are kind of formal events.
What is it? Sprint.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Sprint.
Yep.
Those go up and over by Poco. Those are both good ones.
Jenkins Mountain Scramble in Paul Smith. There's some road racing, like some Olga 5K type things. There's a Doc Lopez thing coming up in April. There's
it's a mountain bike race, right, in Wilmington? Not running related, but
the Doc Lopez.
The Wilmington mountain bike race too.
There's that in June, right?
Yeah.
What else?
Peak to Brew.
Yeah.
How about a favorite for each of you? And no pressure here, sir, whatsoever, in terms of, and you get to choose. You can choose your own if it's like the real answer, but it could be, because I feel like in my head I haven't had a chance to do these, but certain, like for instance, like Wakely or the Great Adirondack Trail Run, like the Great Adirondack just kind of speaks Adirondacks to me in terms of like this very like community like vibe, and it's still able to kind of go up and come back in and stage with the Mountaineer and all. Do you have any personal events if somebody's to put one on their radar for next year?
Definitely. I think the Great Adirondacks Trail Run is probably my favorite of all time. It's what started my mountain running career, honestly. So for me, it's a super special. And that one, you have to call May 1st to the store. They have a landline. You have to call at 8 a.m. when they open and keep calling because it'll probably be busy, and it'll sell out in like 15 minutes. So it's super fun.
Yeah, I'll hop in with the patch sprint. I ran it for the first time last year. Kind of heard about it from one of my buddies, one of the Hansons.
Nice. And
fortunate enough to win it last year, which was really cool. But being local Plattsburgh, it takes place at Poco McCready campsite, which is I think it's a boys and girls camp. I think they do 2 different summer camps there. A little history behind it. It like one of the counselors or one of the founders of the camp or something kind of gave this like. Sorry,
dude. Tell the Hansons to pipe down.
Yeah, they're being a little.
It's got a hockey stick right now, and they're just like banging something.
Yeah. No, but it. He gave this as like a challenge to his campers to like go out and hit these 4 minor peaks around the camp. So Poco Moonshine, Rattlesnake, which are 2 like they have trails on them, and then there's Sugarloaf and Bear, which kind of have trails, but they're a little more not too heard of peaks. But, you know, he gave it as a challenge to hit all those, and then you get a patch. And then it became a thing where like hit all those in a day. And then eventually it became this race. I'm not sure exactly how many years it's been going on, but the camp still puts it on. You know, you can hang out the night before. They have a little pasta dinner.
They take their results keeping very serious. There's a pretty intensive website about this.
Yeah, it is remarkable. I mean, you can see like the fastest times from every year going back to whenever it started. They have splits from the top of each mountain to the next, which is pretty intense. But yeah, it's great. And the race director, they put out like a little who's who of, you know, this year's event. Like they give everybody little funny names, and like my buddy got like most Shakespearean name or something. His name was Noah Bonesteel, and it was like most Shakespearean name or something funny like that. But it was like an incredible community. You know, it took people of all skill level, all experience in the mountains, and like just threw them together. And, you know, you still get a pretty good competition, which is great. I mean, between my buddies and I, we had a great race. And then there's a whole bunch of other locals, some of the lesser known Adirondack people because we're a little farther north. But yeah, it was super fun. And there's a lot of other fast times for people who ran in the past. Like Ryan Atkins has the fastest time right now. And I know my buddies and I we're gunning for that this year with hopefully coming off a good season of 10Ks and 5Ks on the track. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's
month
mine.
is the race, or when's the race?
It is Memorial Day weekend, so I think it's May 26th to 27th this year.
Oh, so right after season, you're gonna have some fitness.
Yeah, I got 1 week before when my finals end to when it starts. So I think I'm just gonna bum around up here, go for some runs, go for some climbs, and like just get ready. Last year we did a 3 or 4 day canoe trip, like right before the race, like, you know, a day before the race, and we had like a 2.5 mile portage with all of our stuff, and, you know, we were out there for 3 days, so we overpacked a lot, and we had really good food. So it was a pretty horrible slog through like black flies and mosquito bites and stuff. But, you know, we still all ran well, and yeah, we're gunning for some fast times this year. So if anybody's listening, registration's still open. Sign up. It's going to be intense.
Jay or Laura, a favorite formalized event up there?
I think you guys covered it. I mean, those two races are my favorites.
The Great Adirondack Trail Race would probably be number one for me. And then Wakely would be a close second, just because I've been running it for so many years. And it's just a fun community that puts it together. And so many people do it every year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
go ahead, Michael.
I think my first time meeting Jay in person was actually at Patch, or at least close to that. So like that was one of the coolest things that I thought about, because, you know, we all have Strava and Instagram and everything. So we all like, you know each other in some sort of fashion and see all each other's efforts. And, you know, where I get a lot of my inspiration from is like seeing all these guys like doing their crazy stuff. But, you know, to finally meet these people in person at these races, I think is like the coolest part about, you know, the Adirondack vibe, or like maybe a northeast East Coast vibe, is like small communities that like kind of do their own thing. And then these races are where you really get to see it all happen together. And I think it's really, really unique. I haven't really ran anywhere else, but I don't know if anybody else can speak to that. I think it's unique to this area that, you know, you get to meet all these people in such an intimate environment that you otherwise don't get.
A question from Travis Lonker was, if you could create an ideal trail race using anything in the Adirondacks, what would it be? What would it cover? What distance? What would be your choice? Man, I would love to race that in a formalized fashion.
That's
There's a lot of things. Yeah. There's a lot of race courses that I've thought about in my brain when I'm out there. Like, but yeah, it all depends. I mean, to put a 100-miler on here would be pretty intense, but I mean, it could happen. There's some of the first day of my 46, that route would be a pretty cool 50-miler. But with some runnable terrain, but also not. I don't know. I mean, you know, hitting the high point in New York on Mount Marcy in a race would be pretty darn cool.
Yeah. I think if in like 30, 40 years, Jay will become the next like Lazarus Lakes and put on some Barkley Marathon style crazy event in the
boy.
Adirondacks that like, I mean, we got to train for it. It's definitely
We do.
the EC would not be happy, but
Right. I know. I was going to say, I've thought about doing these sort of like, say, like, what's the Fight Club? Like, you don't talk about Fight Club.
oh, you don't talk about yeah.
The first
And,
rule. All right, moving on in a segment. Then.
But, you know, something like that.
Mhm. There is, and while it's on my brain, and then Laura, I want to hear for you as well. Sayard just had a couple concepts for like questions, and one of them was, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. I don't know whether there'd be an answer for this, or maybe be like, yeah, I don't know, there's nothing. But they're local terms, slang codes or codes of conduct that you're able to cue us into without knowing a secret handshake. So for those coming in from the outside, what's the gateway into, like, you know, I don't know, however you want to take that question, but you just saying that, you know, mentioning the Fight Club made me think of what's the secret handshake for the Adirondacks, and you maybe be like, I don't know.
Pack it in, pack it out.
Pack it in, pack it out.
It's how to, if you refuse to do that, that's how you don't make friends around here.
For real, yeah,
I think we all agree on that one.
definitely.
You could probably do a good House of Pain rendition on using pack it in, pack it out, and just come up with a good spoof. Rockaway, I would like you and your boys to do that one if possible.
Yeah, we'll get on that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know. Not too many things I can think of.
Yes, that's fair. What routes, and another one from her, what routes or peaks or destinations do tourists flock to that you're just not into, or that you'd love to be into if they just weren't so overcrowded?
Oh, Cascade and Porter come to my mind
Yeah, I
right
was
off
gonna
the
say,
bat.
yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy going and running those two, but it's just, you got to pick the right day and the right time. Otherwise, there's 1,000 people up there, and most of them are just not prepared.
Yeah.
So that would be the spot for the Starfish calendar to start. Would be kind of on.
That's
Exactly.
That's a good spot. Helicopter rescue,
definitely.
starfish pictures.
Yeah.
Women in dresses.
Yeah. High heels.
Yeah. Sandal hikers.
We get that at Breakneck a lot. People going up in heels on the.
God.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna
Jason,
say I feel like
Yeah.
go ahead, Michael.
I was gonna say I feel like a lot of people make Marcy Dam a destination, and I've noticed that on skis, like going through there a few times this winter, like people just ski up to Marcy Dam a lot, and I don't know, it gets a lot of traffic. It's always packed over there, just like in that little neck, and I can see why, but I don't know, very very heavily traffic, and if you want to get there from the lodge, it's like impossible after like 7 o'clock. There's no way.
Yeah. That's a good one. I would say like that Mount Joe, like that zone.
Yeah, that too.
Same idea.
Yeah.
Like you need to go on an off day in the middle of mud season. Same with like any of the like smaller trailheads, I guess, like the garden too, you know, like getting up, sometimes those zones can be pretty busy, but
Ooh, if we're gonna
Indian
bounce
Head.
back.
You forgot about Indian Head.
That's
oh yeah.
true.
Mhm.
That's true.
Yeah.
Indian
Yeah,
Head
that whole
just
permit
overcrowded.
just system.
Accessing.
It's a combination of access now. There's a permit request system where you have to ask for a permit for a certain day and tell them how many people you're bringing, because it technically the access to a few of the peaks from that area traverses through private property. So the private property owners now make you have a permit to go in there, or a reservation, whatever they want to call it. It's not a reservation. But to get to Indian Head, which kind of exploded due to social media, you have to go in there and you have to apply ahead of time to get a permit. So you can't get a walk-up permit that day.
Well, during certain times of year.
Correct. During the summer.
And this was a throwback when we were talking about races that maybe you'd like to see. Jason, listening in, said I loved when Laura and
Bethany and Katie.
Yeah. Suddenly it got into this like, 0.5 font that I was like, what is this? Loved when Lauren and it's supposed to be Katie and Bethany were racing the Bob Marshall as one. And then again here, the winter Bob Marshall, So Intense. So Laura, if you want to turn that into a formal race on the winter Bob Marshall Traverse.
Yeah, it didn't really, it wasn't really like a formal race. It was just more we happened to be doing the FKT on the same day. So I actually ran into them as I was kind of starting, and I didn't really say what I was doing, but I knew what they were doing. So yeah, it was a little bit of a cat and mouse game, which was a bit interesting. But yeah, they did it together, and I had always wanted to do it solo. So yeah.
Yep. And then Sarah, you can relate to that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. In terms of an FKT attempt that becomes a
race.
A race.
But and I found it was actually pretty fun. I didn't really think about her that much, the race factor about Alyssa Godesky that much while we were actually out there, but it was a pretty cool thing, I think, for everybody else watching. I would hope that they enjoyed that, like kind of being able to see our trackers, and it was actually pretty fun, pretty enjoyable. Which I'm kind of surprised. I was going to say like that more things like that haven't happened, in the FKT world, like going for it together, like at head-to-head type things, or like, I mean, I'm kind of out of the FKT world at this point, but so interesting.
Do you think that'll become a thing again, or you think that was? I mean, I guess FKTs aren't going anywhere per se, but in terms of that focus, that intensity, kind of that desire, or whatever.
Maybe now that like racing is back, like I guess we were doing that during the pandemic. Maybe not, but I don't know, I thought it was kind of a cool aspect of our FKT attempt, was having it be almost a race.
And I kind of like the format. I don't know, there was something recently where I was just thinking more on that kind of that style, but getting rid of the formalized like race course, maybe just because the race marking is one of the most stressful pieces for me, especially when it's the uptick of vandalism for these like course markings. So just thinking, all right, how do you do away with that? And I think it was maybe Luis and Escobar and I for a bit where I think he brought up the concept of whether races would go in the direction of just not having the markings. Maybe everybody would have it on the watch or whatever. But I was thinking that would be just kind of cool to, all right, here's your checkpoints or destinations, and like, I don't know, however you want to get there, whatever. But then I was like, wait, that kind of already exists in orienteering.
Right. Gravel racing, they do that. They don't always mark the course. They just say, yeah, here's the GPX file, like figure it out.
and it would be good. I don't know. And I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be tough in terms of safety and supervision and logistics and liability and all that. So I guess that would be hard, but it would be cool to just say, hey, here's your, even if it's a GPS location or whatever, like here's your point on the map. Yeah. I mean, just go however you kind of want to do it.
But yeah, that sounds like orienteering.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, that's happening. Absolutely. Yeah. Anything else that would be fun to dive into that you feel like would just be a fun? Oh, actually, we were going to go back to gear. Best gear. I mean, Mountaineer maybe would be the obvious choice, but any other favorites in terms of go-to gear for either tangible gear or kind of beta or resources?
Well, I'm at the Fallen Arch on Thursdays. You can come visit me. I'll give you beta on trail. I actually get that kind of, like almost every shift I work, somebody asks about, hey, where can I go run based out of Lake Placid, and then obviously we're a specialty running store, so we have lots of shoes. So
yeah,
there's also an EMS in Lake Placid.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can go back out and scrub that if you want, Sarah, on the audio. Yeah.
I don't know. I've lingered in there once or twice. I got a cool pair of tights that were pretty sick on clearance. They're women's tights, but they were pretty cool. So, yeah. Bouncing back while we're talking about gear, pretty sure you can rent snowshoes from the lodge. But
Yes.
A little term that it gets thrown around a lot up here that I feel like is neglected in some other states is post holing.
Mm.
I feel like as a 80K traveler, you definitely know what post holing is, and I've probably been lectured about it by the ranger who stands around Marcy Dam in the wintertime. But I don't know. My buddies and I were going up Mount Mansfield the other day on our skis, and it seemed like they didn't understand the concept of snowshoes over there, because the whole time it was like trying to fight through like the back of your ski sinking in a hole or the tip of your ski going in somebody else's foothold. But post holing is, you know, in the wintertime when you leave, you don't wear snowshoes, so you just punch a bunch of holes through the snow. And, you know, especially going from the lodge, people just don't seem to understand that creates a big problem for people, other recreators. But yeah, lodge has snowshoes you can rent.
Yeah, it's interesting in some other places like New Hampshire, they don't require anything in the wintertime. So yeah, you run into that a lot. And then I think folks travel to these other mountainous places and they're expecting the same national forest rules, and where the Adirondacks are different. So yeah.
Props to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Jason.
Experience at the Fallen Arch there. Yeah. Any other go-to areas for gear or beta that you guys want to plug for people up there?
I mean, if you're talking about like canoeing and stuff, there's the St. Regis Canoe Outfitters here in Saranac Lake. They have a lot of beta. They rent boats. There's Lakes and Trails Outfitters. They also rent boats if you're looking to do some kind of like canoe adventure.
Mm-hmm. Laura, anything else in there? That's fine if not.
Getting a trail map. I think that's probably the easiest and best thing that I've found. But yeah, Mountaineer.
Yep.
I think we're all just pretty loyal to the Mountaineer at this point and don't want to name anybody else.
Yeah.
Well, there really isn't any, like they're definitely I think the most trustworthy, like have the most knowledge. They're in the heart of the high peaks, and like probably have had several people through their door that day that like know what type of conditions are out there, that sort of thing. So
yeah.
And they all come from different backgrounds too. So a lot of them are backcountry skiers, hikers. So yeah, it's not just your average outdoor gear shop. Like they're pretty expert in terms of gear and like where to go.
For sure.
So for the dozen or so of you that are still tuning in with us live at this point, as we're maybe winding down here and letting this crew go to sleep, because I think Sarah's probably training for something, which I want to be mindful of. So for Quanah, Jason, Allison, or Alicia, rather, if you're still on there, anybody else in the mix, if you've got any questions or comments from the crew, drop it in here now, and we can plug it. Anything else that would be fun to plug in terms of favorites or anything? I know you guys are probably pretty tired, and I appreciate you being on for a good duration here. But anything else that would be fun to plug in terms of an epic story or a relay from the Adirondacks?
there's, I mean, since it's the season, there's another cool objective called the Johansson's Last Call that people do on skis. I have not done it. I know Laura's done it, right?
It is awesome.
Yeah.
It's so it's really fun. I highly recommend it if you're into backcountry skiing or Nordic skiing. And again, pick your day and just go for it.
And what is it? What's the effort all about, or what's the?
So you start from the lodge and you go. You can either choose backcountry skis or Nordic skis, and you start from the lodge. You go up right, then you go over Whale's Tail, then it's Marcy, kind of doing an out and back, and then you actually connect with the Van Hoe trails just a little bit and end at the Cascade Ski Center. So
yeah, I think the idea was to ski all of the like formal ski trails in the High Peak region, because there are a very small actual like bit of trail that is just dedicated to skiing only, and so they wanted to like touch all those and create this epic route. Yeah, What's the mileage on it, Laura? I think it's like,
Ooh, I don't know, but it's
I think it's like
definitely
32.
10,000.
yeah, it's like a 50K.
Yeah. And then there's like I think close to like 10,000 feet of climbing, I want to
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
That's a good day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on my list for sure.
And skiing, I mean, obviously, I guess if you get a decent day or choose a different day, I mean, how does that effort differ for somebody who's decently efficient on skis versus if you're in the Adirondacks, you're going to pick like a 50K route with 10,000 feet of gain and go out in terms of time and effort?
It's just being able to handle really like tight trails. So I would say in comparison to like the whites, like our backcountry ski trails are just like very narrow and treed. So I think it's just like how comfortable you are as like a skier, not necessarily comparing it to like a running route, if that makes sense.
And it's also condition dependent. Like I know people have gotten turned around on the top of Marcy because it's just like sheer ice. And if you don't have crampons, you're not going to summit. Like it's just not happening. And so I think being prepared with the right equipment, but then like sometimes you just get skunked when you get up there. But
yeah, and winds are a big factor too.
Mm-hmm. And then I think it's quite the trudge to Cascade Ski Center once you get back from Marcy Dam. It's basically like miles of just sort of flat, slightly uphill skiing on backcountry skis.
Yeah. Some of the trails are you can't wait for them to be over.
Right. Yeah.
Especially coming, out of the Marcy turnout and then connecting to some of those older ski trails.
All right, so maybe one to close us out here, and in from Jason. And Jason, a comment, the comment portion of it is, you're all amazing athletes and have inspired me to go further in the DAC, so thank you. I hope to be as badass as you all are one day. And the question leading in with, what do you guys have planned for your next, your next Adirondack adventure, and then it doesn't have to be Adirondack, but what are you kind of most excited about for the year ahead?
Well, I'm training for Lake Sonoma 50, so that's coming up quick.
That's April, mid-April?
It's like 2 weeks away. Yeah, 2 weeks from this weekend.
Yeah.
April 8th. So so I'm feeling pretty good, actually. Feeling good about that. Goal being top 3 gets a spot on the U.S. team for Austria in June. So that's my goal. So no real plans for the Adirondacks right now, honestly, but that's all right. They're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
it's
what's that?
season.
And actually, Michael, let's go there. And Sarah, what's the field look like at the moment? What's the?
I actually don't know. I have not start list, to be honest. I don't know if they have one published because they use like a bike reg. It's like not a normal registration. It's not ultra sign up. So I don't know. I've been perusing the old Strava files, but to compare my times. So we'll see.
All right, Michael, you got an outdoor season coming up, or you're in it.
I was going to say, that's priority number 1. But definitely looking forward to Patch. Kind of, be the last big race of my outdoor season, I guess. And I hope to see Jason there. We'll give him a run for my money. He was there last year and he came in second. So that was a fun time. I never knew when he was going to come and get me, especially on the downhills, because it started raining and my glasses fogged up, so I could not see like anything. So I was like running blind, grabbing trees, and I knew somebody was right behind me. It turns out it was him. It was great, but recreationally, I really want to get on. It's ice climbing season is like kind of coming to a close, but like the ice is really fat right now. So I'd love to get out to like Avalanche Pass with a buddy of mine. He really wants to do Adirondack, which is like this crazy huge dike that goes up right by the trap dike, kind of this big long ice flow. So love to get out, make a little multi-sport day, ski out there, maybe do a little climbing and ski back.
And where's your passion on the track? What event for outdoor?
Outdoor, 5K, 10K, and steeplechase. I really like steeplechase, but it's a little short. Those people are really fast, but that's definitely like I think the most equivalent to like trail running because it's such a mind game. Like every steeple is like a big rock with a puddle underneath it, and you have to jump over them like 5 times a lap for 8 laps. or 7.5 laps. But it's definitely a mind game more than anything else to be able to get back into like that flow after having to jump over a steeple.
That was my focus in college. I didn't take indoor too seriously. I felt like the cross indoor and outdoor was just too much to put together a big season. So I just didn't do much for indoor, just some speed work. And then outdoor is just steeple. I think partly because it was entertaining, and I think my head would explode if I tried a 10K like on a track.
25 laps is a lot of laps.
A lot of laps in the kind of the pain cave there. And so what's the target for a 5K? How about a time goal?
I'm going for 15:20. That's like the regional standard. So I'd love to hit that. And 10K is probably my main focus. I'd love to hit like a 32:45 is the regional time. So if I can hit that, that'd be nice. I missed regionals this year. I had food poisoning at our conference meet. So like that was going to be like my big race for the 5K, but things happen. So we'll come outdoor, it's going to be great.
Yep. Well, good luck there, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Jay and Laura, what you got you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to closing out my grid next month. It's been a 3-year project. So coming to a close I've only got 9 peaks left, and it's getting a little warm up here. The snow's starting to deteriorate, so it might turn into a little bit of an adventure trying to finish, but it's been an adventure the entire time. So why not finish it that way? But that for me has just been the longest term outdoor goal I've ever had. So putting that to bed will feel really good. It's been quite the journey to get it done. So outside of that, I've got a couple possible races on the docket, other than I'll be down at Cayuga this year for the 50K again. Beyond that, I'm still kind of planning out the rest of my summer.
And will you celebrate capping off the grid at Stewart's, or what's the celebration location?
You better.
Yeah, I'll definitely be at Stewart's afterwards.
It
wouldn't be official without it. An extra thick milkshake. It's the only way.
And Laura, what you looking forward to?
Nothing formal, just a mix of kind of running and spring skiing. So we'll see.
Cool. Well, right on. Well, I'm really thankful for all of you guys being up for joining it all tonight, let alone being on here for 2 hours. I know that's a long haul, and it's getting kind of late. So I very much appreciate it. And those who tune in will as well. Michael, hopefully it secures us at least some possibility for Wyatt's Tex-Mex team sponsorship.
Hopefully by patch. That'd be a great post-race delicacy.
Would be good. And Sarah, I'll look forward to catching up with you, but I'll be stoked to see how it goes at Sonoma as well. Jay, good luck in the grid. And Laura, if you want to let me know how the proposal goes on Whiteface, like that would be fine. If you just want to give me the heads up.
You can probably live stream it. I'll run up, we'll live stream the whole thing on the Trails Collective.
Totally.
That's an outstanding. There's a lot of good ideas. All right, we've got a live stream, the proposal. We've got the Starfish calendar.
Yes.
We have the new FKT category of using only OG gear and nutrition.
Yes.
I'm pretty stoked about these possibilities.
Good brainstorming session. I like it.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good year. Yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, I hope you all sleep well tonight, and it'll be great to catch up with you each in the future. So thank you so much again.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks
guys. Good
all
chat.
Right. Take care, everyone. Good chat. Yeah. See you out there.
Yeah.
All right, so for those who tuned in, also thank you so much live. Those who catch the episode as a podcast later, thank you so much. If you're watching the YouTube after, feel free to drop a question or comment into the feed. Often I'll at least get the heads up and can tag somebody and maybe answer your question. For those who support the Trails Collective in any way, shape, or form through your own friend networks or social media or in support, sending ideas, just being on here, I very much appreciate it. Thanks for helping us support the trail community, and particularly here in the Northeast. I'm pretty grateful. If you've got any gear stuff, for sure, shop local if you can. If you can't shop local, we are here at the Finger Lakes Running Company in Ithaca, and we are online at the Trails Collective with a retail shop as well. And so, so as always, I'm going to cruise out and try to catch some of my girls before they pass out at home. So thanks again for allowing us to do this at all and making us a part of your time. So Next week, I'm not sure what's on deck yet, but I guess we'll get there next week. All right. So until then, see ya.